Have you heard about Anchor? Well, it's one of the easiest ways to create a podcast. Not only is it 100% free, but it has a variety of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or a computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast to other sites such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many others for you. And Anchor even allows you to make money from your podcast without a required minimum listenership. So whether you've been in the podcasting game for a long time or you're completely new to it, Anchor is so user-friendly that it's basically your one-stop shop for making a podcast. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're listening to First Paso. Hello and welcome to First Paso, a show where we learn together how to take that first paso toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candice Olushola, and today's special guest is someone that I met, it's been like 10 years almost. That's insane. It's been almost 10 years, pushing about 9. I think this year is year 9 for us. And we met when I was a missionary in Ecuador. I think I mentioned that in the first episode, how I went to Ecuador as a missionary during my undergrad years. And my guest, I lived at the school where his aunt taught. And so visiting her family with her on vacations and things like that, I got to know him really well. His family pretty much adopted me while I was there. And he pretty much became one of my best friends because we helped each other learn each other's language. So he was trying to learn English and I was trying to learn Spanish, and we would spend a bunch of time on the phone at night trying to talk to each other in each other's languages, frustrated. There's often crying on my side of things, being really frustrated. And he's the cool, calm, and collected one between the two of us. And he would always just calm me down, let me know that it was going to be okay and that we were both going to learn these languages. And so now we have this bilingual friendship, and it's the coolest thing. I can't wait to introduce you guys to him, for you guys to hear his story. So without further ado, please welcome one of my best friends in the whole world, David Yepes. David, ¿cómo estás, man? What's up?
Hi, Candy. Hi. I am very happy to be with you this morning. I am just a little nervous.
He's a little nervous. I know, guys. He's still learning English, so bear with both of us because we're gonna have a little bilingual banter here, and so this is how we communicate. So just follow through with it. But he is really nervous today, so show him some love for this podcast. Totally. But you're gonna do just fine, David. It's gonna be great. How have things been for you during COVID?
Ha sido una época difícil.
Mm-hmm. It's a little challenging.
Es una época complicada because our life is different now.
Yeah.
Many things has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Los planes cambiaron.
Yes, all of our plans changed.
Pero es una nueva realidad.
Mm-hmm.
Y estamos tratando de vivir una nueva vida en base a esto.
Yep.
Pasaron muchas cosas que nos enseñaron diferentes lecciones.
Yeah.
Y hoy por hoy creo que adaptarnos nos costó, pero la realidad es que estos momentos hay que aprovechar para analizar nuestra vida, analizar nuestro corazón, analizar nuestras acciones y tomar cambios que sean de beneficio. Así que la pandemia fue difícil, pero ahora podemos decir que hemos sacado lecciones interesantes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So the the recap of all of that is that we're in difficult times. Things are changing. Plans have changed. But it's also given us a time to really reflect and look into ourselves, look at what we do, look at how we act, look at how we think, and make those changes to do better. I mean, we are adapting to the pandemic, we're adapting to a COVID world, but at the same time, we also have the opportunity to see how we can do better and be better and move better in this world. So despite the changes, despite the adaptation, we still have an opportunity to change and grow, which I think is awesome. And I agree with you totally on that. Like, I feel like this pandemic was exactly what the world needed. And now hold on, because I'm not saying like we needed, man, we needed a whole bunch of people to get sick and die. That is not what I meant at all, at all, at all, at all. Please do not take it like that. What I mean, though, is that it really did, it forced all of us to have to stop. We had to stop, and we didn't have, we had nothing to run after. Like, I mean, our job stopped. How we live every day stopped. The routine stopped. All of our travel plans stopped. Every concert we planned to go to were canceled. Conversation, I mean, everything was canceled. And we just had to sit and be, not necessarily alone, but with ourselves instead of being distracted. And so I think everyone really needed that slowdown, because we're always, siempre estamos corriendo. I mean, we're always running every day. And the fact that it took a whole pandemic to get us to stop or to slow down and really breathe and reassess our lives, reassess our priorities. I mean, that's kind of a problem, but it's a good problem, because now that we've done it, I hope, I know for myself I'm going to do this, but I hope more people will want to have more moments of pause, have more moments of slow down. Correct. Even when they, we go back to work, we go back to school, we go back to doing somewhat our normal way of living, but remembering to find the time to slow down. I think that's the positive aspect of the pandemic. So it has been a little bit of confusion and frustration and financial difficulties and just trying to maneuver the changes. At the end of the day, I think there's still a lot of lessons, like you said, that we could learn from having to stop and take some time to really breathe and look around and look inside of ourselves, and really have more opportunities to have meaningful conversations with people, too. I think we've had more time. I mean, I think you and I have actually even talked more during the pandemic than we usually get to when we're just doing life.
I think the world forget the essential things like love, family.
Yep.
Quizá cosas muy básicas que el mundo y como personas necesitamos.
Yeah.
Apreciar más la vida. Mis relaciones personales.
Yep.
Entonces, creo que fue bueno, no porque, mucha gente murió y eso nos duele.
Yeah.
Pero en otro sentido aprendimos cosas. Aprendimos que hay algo más que el trabajo. Hay algo más que el dinero.
Yes.
Hay algo más que todo aquello que normalmente está en nuestra vida. y que hoy nos puede llenar de paz, que es el amor, es la familia y incluso Dios mismo.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. So basically, what he said is that, you know, the pandemic showed us that we truly have forgotten the little things, the basic things of life. You know, love, family, your relationship with God. If you're a believer in God, and that, you know, money, uh, all the frivolous things aren't as important as those things. Yes, it took casualties. We've lost loved ones, left and right. And that's heartbreaking globally, that we have lost people to COVID and other diseases during this time. But we've also, those of us who have allowed ourselves to, we have also allowed things to die within us that needed to die, like the selfishness, the greed, the desire to have fame and fame alone, like the things that don't hold as much weight, have been given a time to die, so that way we can grow things like the love and the care and the support, in our relationships, the personal relationships that we have with each other. Those things have been able to be taken advantage of and be cultivated during this time. So yeah, so many different ways that we could look at the pandemic. It's been definitely both positive and negative on multiple levels. So, and I know things in Ecuador have been kind of crazy with the pandemic, especially in Guayaquil. I think everyone in the United States has pretty much heard of Guayaquil, Ecuador at this point, because it's been a lot like New York City, and how they were struggling a lot, especially towards the beginning. And so, yeah, just it's hitting, the pandemic is hitting everyone differently. So just showing empathy for everyone, at this time. Some people have not been as affected at all, and that's okay if you haven't. But yeah, definitely, it's definitely been a crazy time. So I'm glad you said all that, David. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself and try to do as much of it in English as you can, and I'll fill in the blanks for you. Tell the people about yourself. Who is David Yepes? This is how we challenge each other. I always tell him, I'm like,
David
okay,
Yepes,
speak in English. So this is the way I've always pushed him. I'm like, yep, that's great, but now tell me in English. Go. So go, David.
Okay. Thank you, Candy.
You're welcome.
I am.
He hates me.
It's very difficult for me to talk in English, because I'm learning. But I am David Yepes. I am 25 years old. I am engineering, in industrial engineering. I think my personality is ser alegre, Candy.
Yeah, you're a happy, joyful person, very happy.
Yeah, I like to talk with the people. I try to
Understand.
Understand the people who talk to me. I love this part of me, because en lo que puedo me gusta ayudar.
He really, when he can, he really does like to help out. So
Yeah, It's difficult to explain.
Take your time. You're doing great.
Help me, please. Help me, please.
Let's see. Okay. I think you're an introvert. Are you introverted? I feel like it's hard for me to tell because you like to talk to people, but
Yeah.
I think you recharge, recargar, like by yourself. You do like that alone time. So he's kind of introverted, but knows how to be extroverted when it's time to be extroverted. But I think you prefer those more intimate, one-on-one type of...
Más personal.
Yeah. He's definitely about, like, being more personal than having to be out and about and stuff. Although he's very active, like, he's a leader, in his church and everything. So it's not that he's not outgoing and stuff. He's just... He knows when to turn on his extroverted side. And he's a jokester. He is a jokester. He loves to play jokes on people, and then he will laugh at you hardcore and doesn't care that you're upset. He will just continue laughing at you. So that's always fun. Not. But, you receive him as he is. It's great. He's super smart. And yeah, I mean, you're learning English in a all Spanish speaking country. That's difficult.
It's
That's hard.
Yeah, I like to work with the young people. All the time, all my life, I worked with young people.
Yeah.
In my church.
Yeah.
En todas las cosas que desempeño.
Yeah.
So es parte de mí.
Yeah. He's really good with the youth. Like, I mean.
So.
I love that. I love that about you. You've always been really good with kids and really good with teenagers. And you don't see that a lot from such a young age. But I met him when he was 16. Yeah, he was 16 when I met him. And even then, like, he knew how to connect and relate things to the younger kids and for his own age group. Like, he always connected the dots for them in ways that were just profound to me, for him to be able to do that. So very, very talented in how he reaches young people, even to this day. So super cool. So anything else you want to tell the people?
Excuse me?
Anything else you want to tell the people?
No.
He's like, nah,
Está bien.
Not really. I think that's all they need to know about me. Okay, so then...
Creo que es lo básico. Creo que está una parte allí dicha de cómo soy o quién soy.
Yes, it's like that's enough for the people to understand David. I think it's a good synopsis, if you will. So very good. So okay, so why don't you go ahead and explain a time when you did your first paso? Like what was this first paso? Where was it? When was it? How old were you? What was going on at the time? So just explain it as best as you can, and I will fill in any blanks that you have.
Okay. Always when cuando estamos en una situación de zona de confort, es difícil tomar el primer paso or the first paso.
So when it's uncomfortable, is that what you're saying? Like when you're in an uncomfortable situation, it's hard to take that first paso?
Yeah.
Okay.
Few months ago, when the pandemic started, we have many plans for me, for my job. And when it start the pandemic, it stopped all the plans. Start all... okay, fue frustrante. It was frustrating for me because mi empresa, estamos creando una empresa with my brother, and para una persona que está empezando parar tan fuerte fue muy complicado.
So he's basically saying that he was starting a business with his brother, and because they were so new, for everything to stop so suddenly, it's very difficult on a new business venture.
Entonces, we have to change all operation. And it take time. It take tomó un tiempo de cómo hacerlo.
Yeah.
Because we don't have all the resources.
The resources, yeah.
Yeah, the resources. Por este motivo es más difícil. Pero creo que fue por un motivo. Hoy estamos aquí por un motivo. Y por eso la historia que te voy a contar es relacionado a cómo fue el primer paso que nace aquí, que nace en la pandemia. Nace en la pandemia, en cómo superar un poco nuestras propias barreras. Así que fue hace muy poco, Candy, en realidad fue hace muy poco.
So your first paso was trying to figure out what to do. Like you said you had like a birth, like a rebirth experience. Is that what you were saying? So go back and so you were saying that your tu primer paso fue ¿qué?
Ya, mi primer paso es que hay varias cosas acá.
Okay.
Todavía no explico esa parte. ¿Cuál es el primer paso que nosotros tomamos? Bueno, en primera instancia, esto movió mucho nuestro piso, ¿sí? No sé cómo decirlo en inglés, por eso te lo digo en español para quizás lo puedas traducir.
So it sounds like
movió el piso donde estábamos seguros.
Right. Okay. So in this first paso experience that he had, it was like his foundation was moving, like you're losing your footing almost. Yeah.
Correct.
It's like the foundation was shaky.
Exactly. So luego de eso, obviamente con frustración, con dificultad, nosotros llegó un punto donde tu paz interior no está bien,
Right.
en donde empezamos a tener problemas internos y es cuando nos preguntamos ¿y para qué? ¿Por qué?
Right. So he was like super frustrated and he wasn't having any peace internally. Like him and his brother were just internally frustrated, internally lacking peace, asking themselves like, how in the world are we going to be able to figure this out? Like it's a lot. It's a lot to try to process and figure out.
Okay, so todo comienza por el trabajo, Candy, pero hoy no vamos a hablar del trabajo. Todo comienza por el trabajo, pero ahí es donde yo me di cuenta de algo más, de qué quiero en mi vida. You say the word need to stop. Yeah?
Right.
In my life, I need to stop too. All the time, I think job, work, and when the pandemic started,
you didn't
no
have
había trabajo.
Right. You didn't have your job to think about.
Exactly. So fue algo difícil. Entonces ahí es donde tomas un primer paso. Encontrarme a mí mismo. ¿Ya? Muchas veces por encontrar lo que quiero, me pierdo a mí mismo.
Wow. Okay. That's a phrase. So he said, so like in finding, like, so like in doing, wait, say it again, because I want to say it right. Repeat
Digamos
it.
que en la búsqueda
Uh-huh.
de lo que yo quiero
Uh-huh.
materialmente,
Right.
me pierdo a mí mismo.
Okay, yeah. So in looking for what you want in material things, you often lose yourself. Yes.
Yeah,
That was a
correct.
phrase. Yes.
So I learned that the first paso to do whatever thing in your life is know yourself.
Wow.
Is know yourself, know who are you
Yes.
and who wants you in your life, like an objective, a personal objective, no material objective, no, no algo superficial,
Right.
no,
Nothing
I don't know,
superficial.
nothing superficial. It's like it's more important yourself, who you are.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to explain, but my first paso fue ahí.
Wow.
Was there. Who are you and who wants ¿qué quiero? Sorry, ¿qué quiero?
Wow. Who are you and what do you want?
Entonces,
Yeah. Who are you
yeah,
and what do you
correct.
want? Yeah.
Ok, entonces, para resumir la pregunta, Candy, mi primer paso fue preguntarme quién soy, qué quiero y hacia dónde voy.
Ooh, and
Conocerme
where am I going? Yeah.
para luego entender quién soy en mi trabajo.
Wow. Yeah. Who am I? Where am I going? Yeah. Who am I? What do I want? And where am I going? Yeah. Those are really big questions to ask yourself.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Candy, one of my hobby is to read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bible is the font of sabiduría.
Okay, of wisdom. Mm-hmm.
Wisdom.
It's like the fountain of wisdom. Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I learned about God. But if you when pasa the time, cuando pasa el tiempo, con los años, study, con los estudios, with job, todo, empiezas a hacer costumbre y tradición, pero empiezas a olvidarte de lo esencial, incluso de lo esencial de Dios. Entonces, ¿qué me di cuenta? Entonces, ¿qué es lo que yo me di cuenta? Yo me di cuenta que mi vida estaba siendo dominada por algo exterior a mí, por la situación exterior, por un contexto exterior, cuando el trabajo determinaba lo que yo pensaba y no era al revés, sino no era yo quien determinaba lo que el trabajo debía ser de mí. No sé si me hago entender.
Yeah, so he was saying that he had to, like, you took the time to, process who you are, and you realized that, when you were a kid, you learned about God, you learned about the Bible, and as you get older, and I think it doesn't really matter what our background is, I think that, we get busy. As kids, we start to get busy with school, and then we have extracurricular activities, and then we go to college, and we graduate, and we have jobs. And so we get accustomed to this life of hustling, and then we forget often our foundation. And for you, that was God and the Bible, and you lose that because you're just trying to live your day-to-day life with jobs and responsibilities and paying your bills and being an adult, to where you can forget that. So this pandemic basically allowed you that time to have to really think about that.
So, Candy, my decision en aquel momento fue conocer por mí mismo lo que Dios quería de mí.
Yeah.
Wow, it's very interesting because I believe in God. And I don't know cuántas personas creen en Dios de quienes nos escuchan, pero hoy quiero contar la historia de cómo Dios aclaró en mi mente lo que yo tenía de frustración en mi vida. Cómo Dios utilizó la pandemia para cambiar lo que yo pensaba y en quién quiero ser. Okay?
So he said, that he doesn't know who all listening knows of God or believes in God, but he wants to share how God, for him, used the pandemic to have him realize the answers to those questions that he was asking earlier about who he is, what does he want, where is he going, and how that all plays out, how that's all played out for him. So.
Aparentemente, mi vida estaba completamente bien.
So he's lived a good life so far, yeah.
Todo iba muy bien, pero with the pandemic, God told to me, David, stop and think, what do you want in your life? So here is the answer. I decide to know God for me. For me.
Wow.
And I start un plan de lectura.
Yeah, he started like a study plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Un plan de lectura donde poco a poco fui entendiendo lo que Dios quería de mí.
Wow.
Mira, yo siempre, a mí me gusta la Biblia, me gusta Dios, me gusta la iglesia, me gusta trabajar por ello. Y por un tiempo lo perdí por las ocupaciones. Pero Dios me hizo entender que hay algo más importante. Y por eso te digo, Candy, estaba muy frustrado porque todo me estaba saliendo mal. Pero era porque Dios quería que yo aprendiese a confiar en Él. Entonces,
let me explain that. So, okay, so he basically God talked to him during the pandemic and was like, look, David, like, what do you want? Because, you've grown up in church, you read the Bible, you like church, you like participating in church. That's fine and dandy, but what is your priority though? What is most important to you? What do you want? Because just doing all of those things, I mean, it doesn't necessarily answer the question of what you actually want. It just shows that you do a lot of things in church and for the church, and that's fine. But to making it more personal. So God was directly asking you, David, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. Y, you know, Candy, bueno, a nivel general, todas las personas tenemos un fundamento en nuestra vida, ¿sí? Que hemos aprendido desde niños. Y cuando ese fundamento no está bien, toda nuestra vida empieza a tambalear, o sea, empieza a tener problemas.
So everyone starts off with some kind of foundation from kids. It doesn't really matter what your background is. Like, we all start off with some type of basic learning of living life. And if it's not a good one, or if something shifts, everything else starts to crumble in your life. It just starts to fall.
Mm-hmm. So, aquí entendí que para empezar a tener éxito, empezar a tener o estar bien en mi vida laboral, familiar, con mi novia, en todo sentido, debía arreglar mi fundamento, debía arreglar mi base como persona.
Wow. Okay. So he said for him to really, do well and succeed and be okay in all of the areas of his life, whether it's work, relationship, family, all those things, he had to basically find his footing again in his foundation, but on a personal level this time, like for him.
Uh-huh. Entonces, ¿cómo fue eso, Candy? Es interesante. Yo empecé a leer por mí mismo y entender cosas que había dejado de entender acerca de Dios en mi vida. Entonces empecé a leer mucho y dediqué tiempo a eso, con lo que yo me di cuenta de algo. Y Dios me dijo lo siguiente: en todo lo que leí entendí esto, que sea lo que sea que hagamos, tengamos cualquier cosa, sea material y dinero, etc. Lo principal en mi vida debía ser Dios. El primer objetivo, lo primero que yo debía ser Dios. Ahora, eso entendí como una dependencia.
Let me explain that. So he started reading a lot. Like, he read a bunch, and I remember actually calling him when he was reading a lot. He was reading so much during the pandemic, and God told him that out of everything in this world, God has to be priority. God needs to be first in what he does in life and how he moves and flows in life.
Entonces, mira, aprendí a depender de Dios, Candy. Y te voy a contar algo que me pasó. One day, I was reading, but my corazón, my heart, is very sad because Candy, no había vendido nada. Habíamos perdido mucho dinero.
They weren't selling anything. They were losing money. So his heart was really sad.
Y las deudas de los bancos, de todo, no perdonan.
Oh, and also bank debt was not going away. So that was also really tough.
So one day in the night, I was in my room, and I thought to God, I don't know what do you want about me. I don't understand. I don't understand anything.
Wow.
And I cry. I cry because al siguiente día,
The next day.
the next day I have to pay mucho dinero, a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yo le dije a Dios, no puedo, no he vendido.
It's like, I can't do it.
What do you want about me?
Yeah.
And Candy, yo me dormí, me quedé dormido. Más o menos entre las 3 de la mañana, me desperté nuevamente.
Oh. So he fell asleep and he woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And I don't know why, pero me desperté. Y tomé agua, vine otra vez a mi cuarto.
Okay. Drank some water,
Dije,
went back to his room.
Voy a orar nuevamente.
Okay, so he's like, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He didn't know why, so he went to drink some water, and he went back to his room, and he started to pray again.
Y Candy, the next day, I read the history of David, the King David.
Ah.
In the history of King David, told about the dependency in God.
Yeah.
And I start to cry when I read the history. And God did a miracle for me.
Wow.
I need to pay a lot of money. En este día, una persona vino a mí y me dijo, David, yo sé que necesitas the money. Take.
Stop. Okay, guys. Whoa. So let's do a recap real quick, because okay, so the night before he had to pay a lot of money, right? He was praying, he was crying, he was asking God, I can't pay any of that. I don't know what to do. And he fell asleep. He ended up waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't know why he woke up at 3 in the morning, and got some water, went back to his room, started praying again, went back to sleep. When he woke up, he started reading about the history of King David and how King David depended on God. And that really moved him. So that same day, he came across a person who saw him and said, David, I know you need this money, so just take it. And just gave him the money. The day after he was telling God, I don't have the money to pay what I need to pay. Duh. Okay, yeah, keep going. Wow.
Candy, I cried for this.
I'm about to cry.
Because God
Wait. Your hand is on your mic. So it's making sounds. Your hand is on your mic. There you go. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Mira, esta historia yo cuento no porque sea mejor que alguien o porque merezca algo. Yo cuento porque esta historia habla de Dios. This history talk about the love of God.
Yeah.
The misericordia.
The mercy.
The mercy of God.
Yeah.
Today, I want to say all the people, God is impresionante. God es lo máximo
Wow.
en nuestra vida. Hoy quiero decir que the glory is for God.
Yeah.
And God teach me that I need to trust more in more in
Him.
In Him. I have to depender.
I have to depend on Him.
Yeah. Y eso aprendí, o sea, es una lección muy importante para mí, porque me di cuenta de algo. Mi vida no es trabajo. Mi vida no es dinero.
Yeah, his life is not work and his life is not money.
Mi vida es ir a Dios.
His life is
Dios
going with God. Yeah.
Me va a dar sabiduría para hacer las cosas.
And God will give him the wisdom to do all the things he needs to do.
Y yo quiero decirle a las personas de allí que si estás pasando por un problema y crees en Dios, ora. Dios va a hacer grandes cosas.
Wow, so basically his advice to everyone, if he had to share his advice to those who are listening today about, if you are struggling with something, if you are having a difficult time, if you don't feel like you have the answer and you don't have the solution to whatever you're going through, he says if you really believe in God, then pray and trust that God will provide. God will do what he says he will do. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, Dios nunca se olvidó de mí. Dios quería que yo vaya a Él.
Yeah.
¿Viste? Entonces, ¿quién soy yo ahora? ¿Qué aprendí? Candy, yo recordé que soy un hijo de Dios. Y Dios actúa en favor mío.
Wow. So he got to answer one of his questions, which was, who is David Yepes? Who am I? And he said, based on him talking about, that foundation, where do you come from? What did you learn? And he basically relearned, but now truly takes for himself as his own. It's something that he can. It's personal now. But the answer to his question is he is a child of God, and God doesn't want to leave him. God wants to draw closer to him and wants him to draw closer to him. So, yeah.
Okay. Es una historia muy, muy linda.
Yeah.
Es una historia muy linda. No sobre mí. No sobre mí.
Wow.
Not about me. It's about God.
Wow.
Y si alguien que está escuchando no cree en Dios,
so someone's listening and you don't believe in God.
Dale una oportunidad y Él te va a demostrar que existe.
So if you're listening, because David and I know not everyone believes in God, and but his challenge to those who are listening and they don't believe or they are not sure, if you're really not sure, if you really feel like you don't think God's real, talk to him anyway. Try. And it's not, if you don't mind, David, it's not, I think when people say I'm going to God and you're expecting him to give you what you want, or you're expecting him to be almost like a Santa Claus, but it's really just taking that time to go to him because he wants to listen to, he wants to hear from you. He wants to listen to what you truly desire. And then he wants to provide you what you actually need. Right? So that challenge for those who are struggling with the idea of God, give it time and keep trying. Think about it. Because he could work a miracle for you just like he did for David. You know.
Ujú. Hay algo más grande, Candy. Hay algo más grande. Y a menudo el mundo nos ha presentado un Dios malo.
Yeah.
Pero Dios es bueno. El mundo dice que ¿para qué ir a Dios?
Yeah.
Pero Dios es bueno. Candy, mi historia es para que la gente sepa que hay un Dios que ama y ama de verdad. Y que yendo a Él, entonces tendremos grandes bendiciones.
Amen.
Grandes bendiciones.
Yeah. So he said that the world has this narrative about God, that he's mean, that he hates us. But God's not like that at all. And he said that God loves us and he cares about us. And what else did you say after that? You said
que te decía que el mundo dice que Dios es malo, que no vayamos a Dios, pero Dios es bueno. Y cuando tú vas a Dios, las bendiciones sobreabundan, las bendiciones vienen.
Right. So, when you go to him, you're blessed. You receive blessings from him, because it's like going to a loving parent, and your loving parent wants to do good things for you and wants the best for you. Yeah.
Entonces, esto que estamos contando acá quizás es diferente. It's different. The other testimonies. Yeah, it's different. But es el fundamento. So, ¿qué es lo que quiero ahora? ¿Qué aprendí? Una, yo no puedo, I can say I know to God, I know God completely.
Wow.
But I no puedo decir, I can't say that. But every day I read about him and I learn every day about him because he's infinite,
yeah.
Yeah, and I am infinity.
Right.
So it's very difficult to understand to God because he is infinity.
Yes.
But every day I read, and I voy entendiendo poco a poco. Pero, si te digo algo, lo que entiendo es que Dios quiere lo mejor para mí, lo mejor para ti, y quiere darnos todo, pero todo depende de nosotros.
Wow. So he's like, look, God is an infinite creature. Okay, so don't expect my finite human brain to comprehend God completely. It's just, we can't. But he takes the time to read every day, a little bit at a time, to get to know God more and more each day. And he said with the little that he can figure out in his finite mind is that God loves him, God loves me, God loves you, and that he wants the absolute best for us.
And now, Candy, I am very happy.
Aww.
My frustrating go away from me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I am very happy. I understand that my life is my money, my job debe ser para el servicio de Dios.
Yeah.
Es decir, lo que yo tengo es para Él. Y
Yes.
entendí esa parte.
Yeah.
Entonces, Dios hizo que esto que vivimos hoy me haga volver a Él. Y este es mi primer paso para seguir adelante con Dios.
Wow. Wow, David. Man. That is a great first Basel story. Like, and I think it's a challenging one to hear from people who think, ugh, God, this God conversation, blah, 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 God. But I think when you have actually had that type of encounter with God, where you realize that you in and of yourself, you cannot do something, and you literally shed tears, like you are crying out to God, I have no idea what to do. I don't have an answer for my problem. God, you are going to have to do something because I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. And for God to do something that there's no possible way it could have been done any other way. You sit there and you have to process, man, who is this God? Who is this God? Because it was impossible yesterday, and he made it possible today. I could not have done that. I think I've had moments like that during this pandemic too, where I've been on that journey too of like, God, just redeem me, restore me, and rejuvenate me in Christ Jesus. That's something that I've actually been praying this year. And I think I've mentioned it on a previous episode that this year has been a year of de redimir, de redención y rejuvenación, es como decir, en Cristo Jesús. Es mi tema de 2020. And the more I ask for that, there are things that have happened that I cannot explain. I don't know how else to explain it than say, but God, right? Like, but God, like, I don't have an answer for you outside of God and how amazing he is and how awesome he is. And that is really hard to explain to someone who doesn't believe in God. And that's not our way to say, like, you better believe in God because God is real. And so, like, that's not really the point of it. The point is that whether you know God, maybe you knew God or you thought you knew God, maybe you felt like God has disappointed you. Maybe you've prayed for something before and it didn't turn out the way you wanted, so therefore you thought God XYZ. David shares his testimony, his first fossil experience with God, because he knew it was something that happened outside of his capability. He could not have found this person to tell them, I need the money, and them just give it to him. He could have probably gone and asked, hey, can you give me some money? I need this amount of money. Sure, he could have done that, but he actually didn't do that. And this person just knew to give him this money without having a previous conversation, without any kind of prompt from any person. They just knew in their spirit, I need to give David this money. I'm going to give it to him. He needs it. That doesn't happen every day. I don't know people that happens to every day. But it allowed him, in the middle of a pandemic, where his job was put on pause, his finances were going up because it's all building up. We most of us are on unemployment. We don't have our, people are still struggling with jobs globally, and realizing I still have bills to pay. I still have debts that I owe. I don't know where this money is going to come from if I don't have money coming in. I just have money going out now. And in all of that, he had to pause and say, man, who am I? What do I want? And where am I going? Does all of this really matter? At the end of the day, do the bills matter? At the end of the day, does my job matter? At the end of the day, do these things matter? Not as much as who I am, what I want, and where I'm going matter. And all of those questions, the foundation of that for David was God. He is God's child. He wants to stay God's child, and he wants to go where God takes him. He wants to go where God leads him. And so I know it's hard for those who maybe are struggling with that concept and maybe feel like, man, like we talk about Jesus a lot on this podcast, but it's, it's just something to think about. It's something to process. Again, his advice to the listeners is to pray. What's the worst that can happen if you pray? You don't get the answer you want. I mean, that happens to us in life all the time. So, really think about that. And I really challenge people to think about those moments in life where something happened in your favor and you don't understand how, or you don't have a clear answer as to why. Perhaps that was God. Perhaps that was God looking out for you. And perhaps you just didn't realize it. But yeah, David, I'm so glad you had that experience. And that's a really, really beautiful personal encounter with God that you had.
So, Candy, quería como aclarar algo que escuché. Creo que no lo di a entender muy bien, para que no quede muy en el aire. Mira, yo había conversado con esa persona muy levemente, muy como que, ¿cómo estás? Yo, estoy en esto, y qué tal el trabajo, y qué tal esto. Comenté que estaba reuniendo, que necesitaba dinero, pero nunca le pedí, jamás, nunca pedí. Y esa persona, el siguiente día, me dio el dinero, la cantidad exacta. Entonces,
sorry, yeah. Okay.
O sea, yo necesitaba dinero, pero esa persona me dio la cantidad que yo necesitaba, ¿me entiendes?
Okay.
Entonces, pero fue un comentario corto de que, estamos en esto, estoy en esto.
Yeah.
Y esa persona después comprendió, que Dios lo tocó, pero Dios hizo un milagro ciertamente allí, porque Dios puso en esa persona la disposición de ayudarme con la cantidad exacta que yo necesitaba.
Okay. So, David had at one point, he got to tell this person, oh, I'm fine, things are well, I'm low on money, obviously, because pandemic and stuff, but, things are fine. But he never told that person how much money he was needing at the time, and that person somehow was able to provide him the exact amount that he needed without knowing the amount that he needed. He knew he needed money. He just didn't know the exact amount, and yet provided that exact amount anyway. And so that is still that is the miracle that there's no way that that person would have known how much to give David. That was very outside of David's understanding as to how you can give me the exact amount that I need when I never told you how much I needed. It's moments like that when you hear, even when I hear stories like that, and as someone who doesn't just believe God, but I know God personally, that still shakes me in who I am with God and how God relates to me and what he does. And so, yeah, definitely hope you guys liked this episode and liked David's story. And thank you, David, for taking the time to explain it in English and in Spanish for my listeners. That's going to be really cool to have people listen to, and hopefully in the parts that maybe you didn't fully understand because he was speaking Spanish, but you could hear the passion behind the story, or the heart behind his story. I hope that really touches you. And yeah, man, that is just so cool. God is so cool. That, man, thank you. So is there any way that people, if they wanted to find you on Instagram or on Facebook, how they could reach out to you? Like, contact you?
My contact?
Yeah.
David in Instagram. Wait. I need to see my...
When you don't actually know your Instagram handle.
On Instagram, David, raya baja. En español es raya baja.
Raya baja. I've always wanted to know what that word was. So it's David _ Yepes 12. So DAVID _ YEPEZ 12. 12. So, yep, you can find him on Instagram. Send him a message. He's really nice. He knows English more than he lets on. He just gets really nervous. So you can shoot him a message in English. He will totally understand. He'll message you back. He's very sociable, and he loves personal conversation. So feel free to ask him questions about God and life and more details on that miracle story. He's an open book when it comes to those things. So definitely follow him on Instagram. Super cool. And thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If there are any topics you want me to cover in the future, or any situations you want discussed, you can shoot me a DM, or you can post them on Twitter or on Facebook at First Paso. Or if you're on Instagram, it's first_Paso. And if you relate to his story in any way, or you are really struggling to believe or understand his story, feel free to share those thoughts with us too, because those thoughts are important and other people need to hear them and process those thoughts and experiences that other people have, and we can kind of share our First Paso experiences together. You can also go to anchor.fm/First Paso to find your preferred streaming site to listen to episodes of First Paso, and you can rate them as well as leave reviews on them, and I would greatly appreciate that. You can also go to www.firstpaso.com to find out more information about this podcast, like how to be a Patreon, some of my sponsors, or how to contact different guests from each episode. So until next time, guys, take care. Love you guys. Please stay safe. We are still in a pandemic, so keep washing your hands, wear your mask, don't go around touching everybody, socially distant, but don't disconnect. And David, we will talk soon. Thank you again so much. Te quiero mucho. I am so glad that you got to do this and that you got to share this story. So it was really, really cool. You take care. Have a great day. And we'll talk soon.
Candy.
All right.
Te quiero mucho, Candy. Gracias por todo. Y gracias a los oyentes. Un abrazo grande.
Thanks, David. Un abrazo. Bye.
Bye, bye.